You had a nice 3-day weekend? Good, good. I had a nice, well, I didn't have a 3-day weekend. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Father Drew Hoffman, yesterday, from the class of 2009, there were three guys that became priests from that class. They were all buddies during high school, and they all became priests, which is pretty cool. And he's got a pretty good gig up at K-State, so if any of you guys are thinking about going to K-State, there's a ton of Bishop Carroll students up there, and a lot of them find their way to Mass there with Father Hoffman. There's another priest there too. But that was pretty neat. And he said, there's a lot of people on fire for their faith and at K-State, which is pretty neat. So it was kind of good to hear from the college perspective, some of our former students going up there and stuff like that. So, guys, we have made it through 6 of these on the political spectrum thing. If you're not aware, tomorrow is January 20th. Okay. And Joe Biden will be inaugurated as the 46th president of the United States. Okay. So we've had 46 different presidents. So, yeah, that'll be going on tomorrow. Washington, D.C., if you haven't been paying attention, is under lockdown, basically. I think there's something like 25,000 National Guardsmen there. They're worried about violence. My general feeling is after what happened on January 6th, I don't think we're going to see a bunch of violence. I think pretty much everybody, felt like that went too far, and we need to take a step back and calm down a little bit, maybe. All right, so we'll see. One thing's for sure, guys, politically, things are going to be changing in Washington, going from a Republican president to a Democratic president, okay? And that's a lot of what we're doing here, guys, is looking at different worldviews about how we view different issues, okay? And so moving on, we're going to talk about number 7, which says allow hate speech in the United States. Well, we've talked about the First Amendment already. We talked about freedom of religion. The second freedom in the Bill of Rights is freedom of speech. Now, they don't go into any more detail than really saying freedom of speech. Okay, so what does that mean? And so over the years, guys, there have been Supreme Court cases over speech. But one thing you kind of got to understand about speech is there's also freedom of expression, which is an extension of speech. You follow me? So, like, to burn the American flag in protest, okay, which some people do, okay, this is an extension of speech. You understand? And so what's more important, your feelings about the American flag and what it symbolizes throughout American history? And some people are pretty patriotic, and they like the flag, they fly the flag, they understand what it stands for. A lot of our soldiers over the years fighting on behalf of what the flag symbolizes and so forth. So when somebody desecrates the flag, it makes them angry. Yes? So should we ban burning the American flag or desecrating the American flag in protest? Well, that idea has been thrown out there. There's been laws proposed and so forth. But a law saying that you can't burn this flag in protest would violate what? Yeah, the First Amendment. Okay? Now, in some countries, you can't do this. Okay? Most countries don't take freedom of speech as seriously as we do in this country. Okay? And I think I might have mentioned this before. When it comes to your feelings, like when somebody says something hateful, okay, your feelings aren't protected. The person that's spewing the hateful speech, their right to spew that hateful speech is protected. Does that make sense? Now, there are limits, okay? You've heard the proverbial, you can't yell fire in a crowded theater and create, like a stampede where people are going to get hurt when there's no fire. Okay. So some speech is not protected. You're not supposed to be able to start a riot with your speech. That's not protected. Okay. What about obscenity? Okay. Can you go into a Dillon store and just start, saying every cuss word in the book? Well, you can. You can't be arrested for it. Now, if they ask you to leave, then you need to leave. If they ask you to leave and you don't leave, well, that's trespassing, right? You're causing a disturbance, you're scaring people, what have you. Okay. But we do, generally have the freedom of speech. Now, if any of you guys are paying attention to what, like Twitter and YouTube and Facebook are doing, like, taking some people off their platforms or censoring people, and any of you guys paying attention to any of that? You're listening about it? Okay. Twitter and Facebook are private companies. Okay, so all they have is a platform, and people can sign up to use it. It's free. But if they don't want you on their platform, they can kick you off your platform. So as a private company, they can do that. That's not really a free speech issue. It's more of a censorship issue by a private company. Okay, very powerful private companies. Yes, all of you guys probably use some social media. I know your generation may be a little bit more into Instagram and Snapchat and stuff like that, right? Yeah. Okay. So my generation's a little bit more of a Facebook, not MySpace, but Facebook. Okay. And so this is all evolving and happening right now. So now where we talk about hate speech a lot of time is in the general public, we generally have free speech. It's where you start to run into some problems is like on college campuses. Okay. They have what are called speech codes on many college campuses, which say you can't say certain things on this campus. Okay. Well, if they tell you can't say certain things on this campus, what are they doing? They're violating your First Amendment free speech. But they're trying to set up a place, what they would refer to as a safe space, so that people aren't offended on their college campus. Does that make sense? Like a safe space. Now, guys, of all the places where you should have free speech is on a college campus, where you share different ideas. How many of you guys have ever heard of somebody like Ben Shapiro? Ben Shapiro? Okay. So Ben Shapiro is this, he was what you would refer to as very conservative. And so on college campuses, guys, you're going to have college Democrats, you're going to have college Republicans, Turning Point USA. There's different organizations you can join if you want to, if you're into that sort of thing on college campuses, okay? So the college Republicans may invite Ben Shapiro to come give a speech to the student body. Now, if you don't want to hear what Ben Shapiro has to say, what do? You don't go to his speech, right? But what they're trying to do is shut people down. So like faculty and student body will send a letter to the administration saying Ben Shapiro is a hate monger and everything that comes out of his mouth is racist, misogynistic, anti-women, he's he's all this, right? And so we should not allow him to give a talk on our campus. Now, what you're doing there is taking away his ideas. Instead of debating him, you understand? Instead of countering Ben Shapiro with your own ideas, your own beliefs, and proving him wrong, you're just stopping him from speaking. Okay? And who gets to decide what is hate speech? Who's the arbiter of what is hate and what is not? Do you guys understand that your beliefs on abortion, when you go to the college campus next year, your beliefs will be the minority on that college campus. And they don't really want to hear your opinion about being pro-life, especially if you're going to a school like KU. But almost every university, okay, you're going to be in the minority. Okay, now here, people tend to be fairly conservative at Bishop Carroll High School. Okay, we're kind of in a bubble. All right, but you go to a college campus, guys, and you want to stand up for what you believe in, they may choose to call that hate speech and shut you down. Okay, this scares me, this hate speech stuff. Okay, now as Christians, we don't go around trying to offend people. We shouldn't. Okay, but are you fearful of what you say? Are you fearful of repercussions for speaking what you believe to be the truth? That's a scary place to live in. Okay, now, do we want to protect people's feelings from people that are being hateful? Well, you can try by banning speech. Now, in Canada, guys, let me just give you an example. Okay, you guys have learned a little bit about Islam in your time in school, probably world history, maybe religion classes. Okay, generally, in fundamentalist Islamic countries, how do they treat women? Really as second-class citizens. Okay, in some of these countries, they don't allow women to go to school, to learn how to read, to leave their homes without a male family member. They don't allow them to drive, don't allow them to attend university or anything like that. And in many places, they have to be coupled. Okay, now, if I were to criticize Islam for that because I believe in my wife and my daughter's liberation from men oppressing them through religion. Now, I've just criticized Islam. Does that make me Islamophobic? Does that mean say I fear Muslims? No, it means I disagree with Muslims on this. Okay, but in Canada, you're not allowed to criticize Islam. You could go to jail for that. Now, I'm just speaking my truth based on what I believe. Do you want people to be able to be shut down in this country for speaking what they believe? Okay, it's guys, it's one of the most scary things that I can see on the horizon in this country. Okay, you have to be careful about what you say, what you post. The fact that you have to be careful about it, that bothers me. Okay, but that's the world we're living in right now. When you guys listen on this, I think I've kind of covered the gist of what, hateful speech is. It's when you say something derogatory about somebody's religion, somebody's race, their gender, their sexual orientation, this sort of thing. If you say something that is deemed as hateful, should you be able to be punished for that? Okay, if you think we should try and stop hate speech, the way this is worded, if you think we should try and stop hate speech, say no. If you believe that free speech, even though it may be offensive, if you believe in that, then say yes. Okay, if you think we should have freedom of expression and freedom of speech without repercussion in this country, unless you're violating the law. Okay. But we could see some new laws. Okay, we'll see what happens. All right, so on that one, you decide. All right, now let's talk about number 8. Okay, and what it says is build a wall on the southern border. Okay, now guys, I know you're 17, 18, so in 2016, 4 years ago, you were 12, 13 years old, maybe 14 years old. So I don't know how much you were paying attention to the presidential election in 2016. But when Donald Trump first decided to run for president, this was the first issue he talked about was immigration. Okay, and he got elected. Okay, this was one of his biggest issues. All right, now one thing's for sure, this is good. Our policies on immigration or enforcement of immigration are about to change. Okay, with President Biden coming in. Okay, so not sure exactly what that's going to look like, but we'll see over the next weeks and months what those policies will look like. Okay, now let's just talk about immigration real quick. Of course, you have legal immigration and then you have illegal immigration. What most Americans don't know is that the estimated between 11 and 13, 14 million people here undocumented in the United States. Okay. Now, of those that are here illegally or undocumented, whatever terminology you want to use, about 40% of those are on what are called visa overstays. Okay, so a lot of people get into the country with a visa, like a work visa or a visa to come to college. Okay, because we have a massive number of international students in this country. Okay, when you get to college campus, you'll see it. Okay, like when I went to school in Georgia my last 2 years of college at Georgia Southwestern University, and we had a large Chinese population, okay, of international students. Okay, there were like 100 Chinese students at our small college in Georgia. Okay, we were pretty diverse. And so what happens is you get for 4 years, you get a visa to come to school. Okay. I have a foreign exchange student right now from South Korea. Okay. Adney, Minju Shin. Okay. Adney Shin. Okay. She's great. I hope she comes back this week. Okay. She went back to South Korea for Christmas. But so what could happen, say, with Adney, say she gets a visa to go to high school here and doesn't get her visa renewed to go to college, she just slips into the population. Okay, about 40% of the people that are here came legally and then overstayed their stay. Does that make sense? The other 60% come across our borders or through ports of entry. Okay, and so now immigration has some real positive effects on society, and then it has maybe some negative effects as well. Okay, so let's look at this, and I'm just kind of doing an overview here. Okay, so with immigration, guys, some of the positive economic benefits are if you go to California, all right, and your fruits and vegetables that we eat, okay, a lot of the farms in this country need basically what are referred to as migrant workers, okay? Workers that will come in and pick crops, pick fruit, and so forth, okay? Those are jobs that our farmers tend to have a hard time finding workers to do, okay? So a lot of times you'll get people that come legally or illegally across the border to work, okay? And so a lot of these migrants, guys, are willing to work for a lower wage than most Americans, which brings down the cost of what you eat. Does that make sense? Same thing a lot in the construction industry. Okay, if you look at construction crews around Wichita or around the state of Kansas or around the United States of America, you're going to find a lot of immigrants in those construction areas, okay, willing to maybe work for less, okay, than what an average American would be willing to work for, which brings down the cost of what? Construction. Okay, so there's some economic benefit here, okay? Now, some of the most expensive parts of this, the biggest expenses are education and healthcare, okay? Most of the time, people that are here illegally, they don't have health insurance. So if somebody gets really sick and you show up at the emergency room, they don't ask for your citizenship papers. They're going to care for you. Okay, they're going to try and solve that emergency for you. Now, you may not be able to get long-term care without insurance, but they're going to try and fix you. Okay, now, if you're not going to pay that bill or have an insurance company to pay that bill, What does the hospital have to do? They have to pass the cost of that care to somebody that can pay on to those who can pay. So what ends up happening is insurance premiums for the rest of us that have insurance it costs us more to get insurance because the hospitals have to charge more for care for the people that are paying for the care, if that makes sense. And the other one is education. So guys, again, at the public schools, or I don't even know, at Catholic schools probably too, if a student shows up, they don't ask them if they're here legally. We educate everybody that walks through the door. Okay, now if that child doesn't speak English, what do we have to do to hire? We have to hire somebody to help teach that person English or do ESOL classes and stuff like that. Guys, hiring teachers is expensive. Okay, so the more students that you have, okay, and some folks may not be paying the taxes, okay, some may be paying taxes. In order to work in this country, you need a Social Security number. Okay, and if you're here illegally, you're going to have to get a Social Security number. So you're either going to steal somebody else's, okay, or get a fake one. All right, which, you know, it makes people that are here illegally break more laws. So guys, this is a really tough issue, right? And people that were fearful of President Trump's policies and so forth, there was never any like major massive roundup of millions of people that were here illegally and deported. Most of the deportations under Trump were people that created violent crimes. Okay, so if you are arrested for murder in Wichita, okay, and you're here in the state in the United States illegally, after you're convicted and you do your time, the state will contact ICE, which is Immigration Customs Enforcement, and after you do your time, you'll be deported from the country. Okay, now this is where it gets really hard. Okay, because we have families in this country, and I don't know if you guys know much about this. Some of you do, I'm sure, but we have families in this country where, like, you may have dad is here legally, but mom's not. Or mom's here legally, dad's not. The kids were born here, or the kids might have been brought here as kids, which the kids that were brought here as children really had no choice in coming here. They were brought here by their parents. So you can't, like, I mean, are you going to punish somebody that was brought here as an infant for being here illegally? Okay, so obviously, guys, you need common sense approach to immigration. We're not going to round up 13 million people and deport them. Logistically, it's impossible. Okay, and how many families would you divide by doing that? You know what I mean? It would be horrible. And I don't think the American people have the stomach for something like that. That's not going to happen. Okay, but the fact is, we still have an issue of people coming in illegally or overstaying the visas and stuff like that. So one of the options is to build a barrier, build a wall. Okay, now since 2016, President Trump built 400 miles. Okay, now this is an issue that both parties used to agree on about building barrier and building fences. Okay, but it has really become more of a Republican issue to try and stop the flow of immigration, illegal immigration, allow legal immigration. This is something we've always done, and just control who gets to come into country. Okay, now some people don't believe in borders, period. Okay, so people should be able to travel wherever they want, live wherever they want. Okay, that's one point of view. Open borders, policies, and so forth. Okay. Guys, statistics prove this out. Where there is a wall or there is fencing, you get a slowdown in illegal immigration. Okay, people have to go around that. It's harder to go over it. We have border patrol along the border. there are ways to slow illegal immigration down. It's really hard to stop it, period, okay? But how do we deal with the 11 to 13 million people that are here already? Okay, now back in the 1980s, Ronald Reagan actually gave amnesty to, I think it was around 5 million people that had been here for a certain amount of time, like 20 years, 25 years, and had not committed any crimes. And then allowed those people to work towards citizenship. Okay. Like I said, we're definitely going to see a change here with the Biden administration. All right. On enforcement. The laws will remain the same. It's still illegal to cross our border without permission. Okay. But will we do anything about it if you do? That's the question. You know what I mean? So, if you ever want to bring this under control, some people you say you have to stop the symptom, which is people coming in illegally. Okay. And the wall will help slow that down, allowing you to control immigration a little bit more. Okay. Is that something you guys want to see? Look, with illegal immigration, guys, if people are willing to work for less, who does that impact the most in our society? What groups of does this hurt the rich in America if you allow illegal immigrants to come in and work for lower wages? No. You know who this affects most is the lower classes in this country. It drives down wages instead of increasing wages. Oh, big businesses, they love illegal immigration because they can pay employees less. You look at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, okay, which tended to be a Republican, like Republicans in business working together. But Chamber of Commerce, they want open borders, okay, so these big businesses can make more money, okay? But what happens to our people that don't have a college degree in this country? We want their wages to come up. We want hardworking people to be able to make a living. And if you're driving down wages by allowing a lot of people to come in and work for less, this does hurt people that are here already. And a lot of people that it hurts, okay, are Hispanic Americans and African Americans that are trying to bring their wages up. You bring in new workers that are willing to work less. This hurts other people's wages. There's a lot of different ways to look at this. And one more way to look at this. I want you to all think about if you were living in Honduras or El Salvador, or Nicaragua, or Guatemala, or Mexico, and things were grim for you and your family. There's violence, the governments, a lot of them are corrupt. Would you yourself not try and come to the United States for a better life for your family? I know I would probably consider that. You know what I mean? I'd be like, man, I want to go to the United States too. Okay? So you got to understand why people want to come here. Most people that come here want to come here for the right reasons, which is to, you know, achieve the American dream. Okay? A lot of the people that come here, the first generation, they're going to be sending a lot of that money back home. Okay? To help their families back home. Okay? Now, there's a negative aspect to that. That money that's earned in the United States is leaving the United States. It's not really going back into our economy. It's going into Mexico's economy, which could be a good thing or a bad thing. If it goes into Mexico's economy or Central America's economy, that helps their economy, which means fewer people will need to come here if their economy's better. I don't know. Okay, so it's just kind of, I wanted to give you a big picture here. I just, let's build a wall type of thing. Let's talk about, you know, immigration as a whole, okay? Because it's important to have context on this stuff before you start, you know, drawing conclusions or having opinions. And hopefully I did a good job of giving you kind of both sides of that. And you guys can decide whether you think investing in a wall will help slow down or control, or do you not believe in that sort of thing? Okay. Number 8, you decide. All right, number 9, the death penalty. The 8th Amendment to the, yeah. The 8th Amendment to the Constitution says this: there shall be no cruel or unusual punishment, nor unreasonable fines or bail. Okay? Cruel and unusual punishment. Now again, this is in the Bill of Rights, so it was written in 1791. Okay? In 1791, we were still hanging people. Okay, so I don't think they meant you can't have the death penalty. Does that make sense? So in the 1970s, the Supreme Court said that the death penalty was cruel and unusual. And for about, I think it's about 8 years, there was no death penalty. So you guys have all heard of BTK? Okay? BTK committed all of his murders when there was no death penalty. So when we finally caught the son of a gun, you couldn't try him for the death penalty. Follow me? Now, in the 1980s, the Supreme Court said the decision on death penalty will remain with the states. So some states have the death penalty, some states don't. Does that make sense? Now, Kansas has the death penalty, but we haven't used it since we reinstated it. Okay, we have several people on death row in Kansas right now. Okay, you guys heard of the Carr brothers? Heard of the Carr brothers? No? Okay. This was 2005. Okay? No, it's more recent than that. That's when they caught BTK. It was, I think, 2005. Okay. We were just getting back from China. We adopted Lily in China, and we were in the airport, and we saw the news that they had caught BTK. Yeah, that was 2005. Okay. The Carr brothers was a couple of years later, maybe 2008. Okay. All right. I'll talk about that in a minute. Okay. So let's talk about, so the Constitution says that the death penalty is allowed and that states will determine whether they have it. Now, Texas has the death penalty. Texas uses the death penalty. Arkansas has the death penalty. They use the death penalty. Kansas has the death penalty. We haven't used it. And I don't know if we will. Okay. Now, the arguments over death penalty, and you guys probably got a lot of this in religion class, but you got the economic argument. Does it cost more to take a 20-year-old that's convicted for life without parole, life expectancy of 76, are you going to keep that person in jail for 56 years, feed them 3 meals a day? You got to hire the guards, the prison guards, and all the food that they eat over those 56 years is expensive. Okay? But some people say it's more expensive to put somebody to death because, guys, most 20-year-olds that commit first-degree murder can't afford their own attorney. And if you can't afford an attorney, one will be appointed for you. And that attorney is going to be paid for by you and I, the taxpayer, is going to pay for those lawyers. And those lawyers aren't cheap because they won't allow, somebody just out of law school to try, to defend somebody that's being on trial for death penalty. They won't allow it. So they're going to have a high-priced attorney that you and I are going to pay for. And the appeals process, like you get convicted, you get to appeal, you get to appeal, you get to appeal, you get to appeal on death penalty cases. The appeals process takes years to put somebody to death. It doesn't happen like he committed the murders in 2008, the Carr brothers. It's now 2021. We still haven't put those guys to death. So they're in prison for a long time in a lockup, which is death row, which there's only a few people, and you got to have guards specifically just for a small number of inmates, which is more expensive. So, guys, you can twist the economics here on the death penalty however you want. They're both expensive. Okay? To keep somebody in prison for all those years and to put them to death, I mean, the process of using, most states use lethal injection. So that cocktail of drugs and just to go through that's really expensive. So anyhow, this kind of comes down to like, how do you feel morally? Should the government be able to? Now you guys know what the Catholic Church's stance on this is, right? If you can safely contain somebody from escaping that is a threat to society, if you can lock them up and not worry about them escaping, then you shouldn't have the death penalty, right? That's what the church says. And then the church said, you know, if you can't safely keep them locked up, then you can use the death penalty. Okay, because they're a threat to other people. Okay. I just watched this Netflix series over the last few days called Night Stalker. It's pretty new on Netflix, so if any of you guys are on there, it's about his last name's Ramirez, and he's a serial killer in the 1980s in Los Angeles, Southern California, and it's about the detectives and tracking him down. It's a pretty good show. Have any of you guys seen Mindhunter on Netflix? Mindhunter. It's pretty good. Okay, it's about BTK. It kind of is about BTK, but they flash to Park City, Kansas throughout the show. And, yeah, but I don't know if they're going to do a final season, which kind of stinks because they leave you hanging. But anyhow, it's about the FBI doing profiling of serial killers, which is kind of interesting. All right, sorry. So you know the church's stance. Talk about the economics. What about how you feel? What about the victims' families? I would say, you know, the Carr brothers is one of the most horrific murders you will ever hear about. Okay? Reginald and Jonathan Carr from Dodge City came to Wichita. They broke into a small, like, duplex where there were 5 college students. These were all good kids. They were all Christian, strong Christian kids, innocent people. And basically, they held them at gunpoint, drove them to the ATM machines, forced them to withdraw money from the ATM machines. They took them back to the duplex, and they forced them to, you know, they sexually assaulted them, and then forced them to have relations with each other. And then they took them in the car naked. Greenwich Road. You guys know where Cabela's is? Out on Greenwich, K96 in Greenwich. There used to not be an exit off there. There wasn't a road, you know, you couldn't get off there on Greenwich. There was nothing over there at this time. They took them to that, basically just near that intersection, K96 and Greenwich on the south side. There's like a lake there. It was December, snow on the ground, and they were all naked. And they had them kneel on the side of the road. And they shot them each execution style in the back of the head. One of the women had a hair clip. Bullet ricocheted off the hair clip. Okay? She played dead. Reginald and Jonathan Carr left, and she walked naked around that lake. There's some houses you can see over there. They're still there. And started knocking on doors in the middle of the night. She had survived. They had an eyewitness. Okay. They captured these 2 guys over by Wichita State at an apartment complex. Okay. This is very close to home. I live out east. You know, it's, you know, just a couple miles from my house. And it's scary what these guys did. Now, they were convicted, sentenced to death. Now, the Kansas Supreme Court overturned their death penalty because they said the brothers should not have been charged or tried together because one of the brothers was the ringleader and the other one was following. So they overturned the death penalty. Well, the state of Kansas sued the Kansas Supreme Court and took this case to the U.S. Supreme Court. And after the 9 justices of the U.S. Supreme Court heard about this case, Justice Scalia, rest in peace, he's since passed, said in all of his times as a judge, he said, this may have been the most horrific murder I've ever seen. And the U.S. Supreme Court said 9-0 to the Kansas Supreme Court, reinstate the death penalty on the Carter brothers. So they're back on death row. Will we execute them? I don't know. Do you think we should? You decide. Okay. All right. What do we got next here? Okay. Privatize Social Security. Who'd you guys have last semester? Levels? Okay. You guys remember learning about Social Security during the New Deal? Kind of teach you a little bit about that. Okay. I'm going to just give you some background on it right now, and I'll probably finish. It's going to take longer than I have to finish this. Okay. So let me just give you some basics on Social Security. In 1935, they passed the Revenue Act of 1935, which is supposed to create old age income for people that can no longer work. Okay. In 1935, when this was created, the retirement age was set at 65. Okay. Did you guys know the retirement age is now 67? They increased it. Okay. Life expectancy has increased. Okay. Now, you know what life expectancy was in the United States in 1935? 66. So life expectancy, the average American would be on Social Security for how long? 1 year. Okay. Now, today life expectancy is about 78. So you got a problem here. You got people that are going to start retiring at 65, and they're going to be on Social Security for 13 years on average. Women tend to live a little bit longer than men. Okay, so women is closer to 80, men is closer to 77 as far as life expectancy goes. Okay, men are stupid, do stupid things, and they die earlier. Okay, am I right? Yeah. So, all right, this creates a problem. Okay, you're going to need more money. Okay, now what they do today, guys, is they take out 6.2%. And everybody had a job. Okay, that wasn't cash. Okay, and you got money taken out of your check. Yes, 6.2% for Social Security. Okay, you also have, I think it's 2.4% for Medicare. All right, and then you got your federal income tax, your state income tax, most of which you guys will get back. You don't get this back in your refund. Okay, because this is for you. It's supposed to be for you. Okay. And then this money is supposed to go into what's called a Social Security fund to the government. It goes to the government. You put this money in every month, every 2 weeks, 6.2% of your income. And when you retire, you get a check every month for the rest of your life. Yes? That's how Social Security is supposed to work. The average that a person gets, the average payout per month is $1,300 a month. You guys, I know you don't live on your own right now, but that's hard to live on. Okay, that is a fixed income. That is hard to live on. So first thing, don't rely on Social Security only for your retirement. You understand? You got to have other retirement. Okay, a lot of Americans don't, unfortunately. Okay, now you also have this over here. What is that? What happened between 1946 and 1965? Well, World War I ended in 1945. Because we had 12 million Americans fight in World War II. 9 million Americans in uniform at the end of the war. Those people came home from the war and they started doing what? Making babies. Okay? This is the baby boom. All right? See, doesn't it kind of look like a pregnant woman? That's a graph. All right? It's an infant. All right. So anyhow, right? So guys, a large number of babies, and we had a lot of immigration. We had people fleeing Nazism, okay, and then we had people fleeing communism. Okay, so population in this country went up. All right. Now, if you were born in 1946, you're past 65 now. They did change the age to 67, so this is what we'll be doing at 67. Okay, you and I. All right. Now, because these people are now retiring, it's putting a big strain on Social Security. They're saying by 2037, using this formula, they will run out of money. Okay? And then one thing I got to tell you guys, back in the 1970s, you had all this money in this Social Security fund. Congress looked at that money and said, you know, we could use that money for something else, for other things. And they raided the Social Security fund. This doesn't exist. So the money that comes out of my check and your check this week goes to the federal government and then is transferred to somebody that is receiving the money, grandma. There's no fund. It's been raided by Congress. It's horrible. So Social Security is in bad shape. So we're gonna have to try and fix this. There's a problem fixing it. Because when you try and fix it, old people get scared. Old people vote. Okay, so I'll talk about that on my next lecture tomorrow. Okay, we'll do a little bit more, quite a bit more on this Social Security. It's pretty interesting. Okay. Hey guys, how you doing? Thanks for coming today. We had 2 students